In the early 1300s, London was a city of extremes. The tallest spire in the world pierced the clouds, while the stench of slaughterhouses choked the streets. To enter was to step into a machine of survival. Within these walls, the sweet odor of sanctity from 100 parish churches met the unholy rot of open sewers. Could a city this powerful survive famine and plague? Or was London itself doomed? Looking at this medieval world, the stability of the early century was shattered by two systemic shocks. First came the Great Famine of 1315. Years of cold, wet weather devastated the harvests. The protein supply vanished. Bovine pestilence killed up to 62% of the cattle. Inside the walls of Newgate Prison, the hunger was so absolute that rumors of cannibalism began to spread. Then, in 1348, the Black Death arrived. Imagine standing in a silent ward. Within days, families vanished. Look closely at the victims. Their bodies turned dark with gangrene. Black boils dripped blood and pus. Churchyards overflowed. Bodies were stacked in plague pits like cordwood. Between 30% and 50% of the population perished. Was this the end of the world? To understand how London endured, we must look at the three walls of London life. The first pillar, the stone wall. Imagine standing at the base of the London Wall. This was a 2-mile defensive perimeter of Kentish ragstone and flint. The wall was more than defense, it was taxation. Every merchant paid murage to enter a specialized tax for the wall's maintenance. Entry was restricted to 7 principal gates: Ludgate, Newgate, Aldersgate, Cripplegate, Bishopsgate, Aldgate, and the southern entry across London Bridge. Looking at these structures, you see they were not just openings. They were massive towers housing offices and grim prison cells. At sunset, the gates were locked. Curfew began. Skillful men, fluent of speech, were hired as sergeants to monitor all who entered. This was total social control. It stopped the spread of leprosy. It kept suspicious people out after dark. The most notorious section of this wall was Newgate Prison. Located at the western gate, it was London's primary jail for felons. It was an emblem of hell itself. Look into the stone hold. This was a dark basement cellar. It was essentially an open sewer. Private keepers received no salary. Instead, they extorted fees from prisoners for everything from food to the removal of iron shackles. The second pillar, the spiritual wall, looked toward the highest point in the city, Ludgate Hill. Here stood old St. Paul's Cathedral. It was a giant. Its spire reached 489 feet into the clouds, visible for miles across the Thames Valley. While the high altars hosted the Mass, the long nave was an entirely different world. This was Paul's Walk. It was the London grapevine. Newsmongers, lawyers, and merchants gathered here to wait the intrinsic actions of the state. It was a cacophony of pealing bells and a babel of languages. The cathedral held the shrine of St. Erkenwald. Thousands of pilgrims flocked here, bringing offerings of gold, silver, and precious stones. Outside in the northeast corner stood St. Paul's Cross. This open-air pulpit was the city's site for radical preaching and political announcements. The third pillar, the economic wall. Looking at the economic heart of the city on this map, we find Cheapside, also known as West Cheap. This was London's public square. Shopkeepers signaled their wares with ornate signs. The street names served as a topographic directory: Bread Street, Milk Street, Ironmonger Lane, and Poultry. At the eastern end of Cheapside stood the Great Conduit. This was a marvel of engineering. It brought sweet water via lead pipes from the village of Tyburn. Cheapside was the stage for royal power. Victory marches and pre-coronation processions passed the Eleanor Cross. To cross to the southern suburb of Southwark, you had to traverse London Bridge. Completed in stone in 1209, it was a self-contained neighborhood. Imagine 140 timber-framed houses hanging over the river. They were supported by hammer beams and struts. The bridge was a continuous shopping arcade of haberdashers, glovers, and cutlers. Below the arches, 19 piers restricted the river. They created a dam effect with a 5-foot drop in water level. Shooting the bridge in a boat was a high-risk gamble that often ended in disaster, the machine of survival. Running a city this dense required a sophisticated machine. At the top was the mayor, elected annually on October 13th. He was the chief judge and mediator between the king and the powerful guilds. Below him was a small army of officials. Constables patrolled the streets to maintain the king's peace. Beadles were investigators, rooting out thieves and illegal vendors. Ale conners tested the quality of bread and beer. Bad ale was poured into the gutter as punishment. Contrary to modern myths, Londoners were concerned with hygiene. Even the poor performed a daily top and tail wash of their face and hands. Public bathhouses were social centers where people gambled while washing with tallow soap and sweet oils. Yet this cleanliness was offset by reality. Waste was thrown from windows into the streets. The air reeked of rot. In this world, a sweet smell was the odor of sanctity, while a persistent stench was the hallmark of sin. The catastrophe of the Black Death fundamentally transformed this city. The massive labor shortage shifted the balance of power. Surviving artisans and peasants gained unprecedented bargaining power for higher wages. The ebullient, soaring world of 1300 had been tested by fire, famine, and pestilence. Yet the infrastructure of that age, the defensive walls, the stone bridge, and the legal machinery would remain the backbone of London for centuries. London's history is a story of extreme highs and devastating lows. It rose as a metropolis of the Middle Ages, fell into a nightmare of death, and was repeatedly reborn. The spirit of that 14th century world is still here, hidden in the names of the side streets off Cheapside and the ancient stones recycled into the walls of the Old Bailey. Medieval London reminds us that even after the greatest tragedies, a city can be rebuilt. But it leaves us with a question. If the gates of the world were locked tonight, would our modern machines of survival hold? Anyways, I'm Miles, watching the past so we can understand the present. And together we keep history reborn. I'll see you in the next era.